This is Dr. David Shine, and welcome to Business Law 101. So we give you an opportunity to take a little look at the Heller case. Now, keep in mind that this is a very common dispute that we run into. The seller and the buyer have different expectations of quality. Very difficult to resolve these situations. Bede failed the quality test with the buyer, passed the test with the seller, although the tests were slightly different. So buyer canceled the contract because the beads, because they failed the buyer's test for the beads. So it's a very interesting situation. So these are very typical, and the best way to deal with this, obviously, is for you to have an agreement as to what test will be used and who will administer it. Maybe identify an independent laboratory while you're negotiating the deal if something like this is likely to happen. And again, I saw a small business go out of business in a transaction like this, an international transaction. What happened is that the product was polymer scrap that had been converted from scrap plastic into little pellets, which is what is used in the polymer injection machines. And so it sounded like it was going to be a good deal. The stuff is shipped to China. While it comes off the ship in China, the buyer in China calls my client, who was in Houston, Texas, and said, hey, these beads are all different sizes. Now, why that's significant is, again, I learn a lot about little stuff here when I deal with various business issues over a long period of time. What happened in that case is the Chinese buyer sounded pretty legitimate. They said, the beads in the box, there's a big gaylord, multiple gaylords, big, huge boxes. They said the beads are not all the same size. And the reason that's significant is if you're making better quality plastic items, you have to heat it for a specific period of time. The beads must all be the same size. So the Chinese said, we can make do with this, but it's basically scrap plastic that we can make cheap stuff with, but we can't make the nicer stuff because the beads are all different sizes. So it's a pretty interesting situation. Again, it's a real life circumstance. Unfortunately, what the Chinese said is we can reject the whole order, or we'll give you a couple cents on the pound. So the seller here in Houston, took a dramatic loss on that order. And then it's a woman-owned business. She had another deal similar to that fell apart. And so with two fairly significant deals in a row, she went from being, prospectively a captain of industry to being out of business, sadly. And she was a international person, and she went back to her home country when this debacle came down. So a very sad case indeed. This is Dr. David D. Shine for Business Law 101. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe on your favorite platform.